Hey, my name is Matt Stohrer and I repair saxophones for a living. Today I would like to talk to you about Yamaha adjustment screws, and also some Yamaha pivot screws, and their tendency to become loose over time and not hold their position. And since adjustment screws are supposed to keep your saxophone in adjustment, if they don't hold their position, your saxophone is not in adjustment. And if you are a Yamaha owner and you are carrying screwdrivers in your saxophone case, you probably shouldn't really need to do that. So hopefully this video will help you out. So the reason this happens is these are Yamaha pivot screws. And let's see if I can make the contrast so that it shows up. Okay, might be a little bit hard to see, but these pivot screws have a channel in the side into which a plastic insert has been put. And this plastic insert acts as a thread locker. When it's screwed in, it is kind of forced into the threads and will hold the screw in place. And this is used on some Yamaha pivot screws and all Yamaha adjustment screws. And this little plastic piece here, over time, after it gets screwed in and out a few times, gets pressed in and no longer provides any resistance to the screw. On the older Yamaha pivot screws, like this one, without a head on it, that can be disastrous, as it can work its way too far in or all the way out. On the new Yamaha pivot screws, it's not quite so bad, because usually they set it so the screw is screwed most of the way in anyways, all the way up to the head. But it can still be a real pain in the butt if it's not working correctly. So the way to fix this problem on the pivot screws or the adjustment screws, although I'm going to show you on adjustment screws because that's actually a job I'm doing right now, is you want to take a little bit of this stuff. Loctite Thread Locker Blue, removable. That is extremely important. Now, Loctite sells two thread lockers that are pretty popular, Loctite Thread Locker Blue and Loctite Thread Locker Red. Now, in an idiotic turn of design, they have the blue thread locker in a red container and the red thread locker in a blue container. So make sure you're getting the blue that is removable. If it's not removable, you're not doing yourself any favors. So, get your thread locker, squeeze out a little dab of it onto a business card or piece of paper, something like that. This is actually one of my business cards, which I use these for quite a bit. Give yourself a little dab at the end of a screwdriver. Find one of the offending adjustment screws and put a little dab right around the edge. And let it kind of wick its way in. Now you want to do this after you've set your adjustment screws where you'd like them to be, because you really don't need to move them after this, and it needs about 20 minutes to set. So after you put it on, wipe off the excess, and in about 20 minutes that should be set. If you'd like to do a super clean job, you can make sure to get the thread locker into the little gap, which will be easier to see when you get it in person. I can't focus on details that fine. You might be able to see the gap. Let's see, right on the top on this one. I've actually already done that one. And on the upper left on this one, which I've also already done. And it'll wick its way in there, and basically the screw will still turn after this stuff sets, but it just takes a little bit more force than it did before, which means that while you're playing the saxophone, it is not going to vibrate itself loose or work its way in any direction at all, basically, while you're playing, throwing your saxophone out of adjustment. So, about a minute and a half of time, plus 20 minutes of letting it sit, plus some thread locker blue, a piece of paper, and a screwdriver or a needle, and you can put your Yamaha pivot and adjustment screws back into good condition. Now, something to note about the pivot screws on a Yamaha. So there is a pivot screw. I don't know why my camera won't focus today. So there's a pivot screw, right? Okay, and you can see pretty clearly that that's what this is. Now, this curved surface here is actually a bearing surface that goes into the end of the key, and the key rotates around it. So when you put, if you have pivot screws that are loose and you're going to be putting any thread locker on them, make sure you put only a little tiny bit on the head of the pivot screw back here. Not enough so that it will wick its way all the way to the front, because the last thing you want is to make this surface here bind in any way. This has to be absolutely smooth and absolutely fit perfectly. So if you're doing this on your pivot screws, a little dab will do you right in the slotted side, just a little tiny bit. You really don't want very much at all. So don't ever apply this directly to the area you want to apply it to, because a whole lot of it will come out really fast, and that is way too much. You really only need just about the amount that'll sit on the head of a screwdriver, a very small screwdriver. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful. My name is Matt Stohrer. I repair saxophones for a living. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, issues, funny stories to tell me, please feel free to get in touch or leave them in the comments here. Thank you very much for watching.